The bell is ringing for the Back to School Bash at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Don't be late to add up big factory incentives combined with final dealer subtractions on current inventory. Get back to school savings in a new 25 Ford F-150 STX. Buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new 25 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease for just $399 a month. It all adds up to a great time to buy during the Back to School Bash at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Happy Triple Hey to everybody. Happy Wednesday, right? I guess a lot going on in the world today, but try to keep it light today. We don't really like to talk politics on the show. We never have. But anyway, my name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. Going to talk some UCLA football. I'll be heading out to the game tomorrow. I'm very excited for this game. More excited than I was to go to Michigan Stadium. The number one game on my bucket list is the Rose Bowl game. I know it's not the Rose Bowl, but it is still the Rose Bowl stadium itself, and to see the San Gabriel Mountains and the maybe the sunset there, that will be awesome. Join us. Feel free to join the conversation on X, Facebook, YouTube. 4:15, Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican. Hope he doesn't get mad. Ask Sean Ryder to come on. Sean is busy. I love having Will on, though. He's come out of the bullpen or pinch hit, and he's been around the program for 30 years. So very excited to have Will on. 5 o'clock-ish, Ned James, former UNM quarterback and analyst for the Lobo Radio Network. And I'm joined by my co-host today, Mr. Ed Nunez, voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and ProView. How you doing today, Ed?
Good, good, Ryan. You mentioned a lot of things happening in the world, so just it's a crazy kind of country we're living in now. But hey, it's a tragic thing, and gosh, that's horrible. I hate to mention it, but it's just one of those things that's popping up everywhere. So thought that I really mean it too. It's prayers for Charlie Kirk and his family. He leaves behind 2 young kids, and we don't like to, but I think that I just had to say that because it's a tragic thing, man. It really is. But other than that, excited for you. I saw you at the press conference yesterday, and I'm excited for you to go out to the Rose Bowl, and hopefully New Mexico has a good showing out there.
Yeah, only mentioning the news today because, I don't know how many viewers we're going to have, but some great guests today. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Ed. Very quickly, before I get your thoughts on the press conference yesterday, and I do love Jason Eck. He has got to be one of my favorite coaches I've ever covered. Patino was up there because I always mentioned Patino was Bill Murray as Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters. He had that dry sense of humor, and he had some quick wit in his press conferences, kind of had some humor to him. So, and he was a straight shooter. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I really like Jason Eck, though. Check out the Pit Press Plus, your all-access pass to the heart and the hustle of the University of New Mexico Athletic Department. With a monthly or yearly subscription, you'll unlock behind-the-scenes stories you won't hear anywhere else. Whether you're a diehard fan, stats junkie, or just here for the spicy locker room gossip, the Pit Press Plus has something for you. Subscribe today. Support local sports journalism. That just doesn't include us, the Journal, Santa Fe New Mexican. Brad and Jared and Van over at 13. $2 a month or $25 for the entire year. All Lobo, no filter. Or go to thepitpressnm.com. Follow us on social. Stay in the loop with Lobo Sports for exclusive updates, interviews, and behind-the-scenes content. Find us on Instagram, X, Facebook at the Pit Press NM, and we're now on TikTok at the Pit Press on TikTok. I don't know how many of those people watching us actually follow us on TikTok, but we were going to do a show on Monday, and if you've never noticed on the show, I had a chipped tooth. I was very self-conscious about it. I finally had work done, and I've got a temporary teeth, and I get my veneer and crown in 2 weeks. Today I had to go for coloring. I've never really had major dental work other than braces. I was out of it on Monday, and there was not a will in my body to do a show, especially with the traveling, and I do work a full-time job. I've said it, I'm trying to give more coverage. It's been a little rough. I've been to the dentist like 5 times since the end of July, so forgive me. But I'm happy because I've made the joke. My only redeeming quality is my smile, and here I am. But I think before we get to the press conference, Ed, a win's a win. And I saw posted today, and it was something that I had talked about. They have 3 penalties in 2 games, whereas last year under Bronco Mendenhall, they were the most penalized team in the country. I think that's great. It's true. And I think when you've put together a team like this, and if you've listened to this show for the 2.5 years, 3 years we've done it, I have not been a Lobo apologist, but when you're down and you score 15 unanswered in this situation, hey, kudos to them. And Jack Lane, I thought it was very cool that Eck got his first win. We expected them to win this game. The thing is that Cody Hawkins, Eck came from the University of Idaho. He's played Idaho State. He killed Idaho State. I wrote about it. It was like 140. He had outscored them in 3 years, like 141 to like 30 or something. So I expected them kind of to come in and roll. I think you can also make the defense that you played Michigan in between UCLA, Michigan Stadium, the Rose Bowl. You have Idaho State. Not a knock on Idaho State. The atmosphere was meh. I don't know if, 17,000 is praising in a 40,000 seat stadium. Look, it's not a big time opponent and it's still kind of warm. And I think that deters Lobo fans away. I don't get it. I never will. Being that 20 some years ago, you couldn't find you couldn't walk to the bathroom in the stadium. But Ed, these are some of the notes that you took. Yes, I have the Red Sox. I just tied the game. Ed, this was some of the notes that you brought up. And I'll mention his quote of the year yesterday, quote of the year nominee. You had said, this is what you mentioned to me. Eck said that Idaho State had come out in a different defensive front that made them running the ball harder than they thought. Jack Lane got sacked twice in the second quarter, and it was on back-to-back 3-man rushes. I thought that was awful. That's what you took away. Ed, I'm going to throw the ball into your court.
They expected to come in and be run heavy. They expected to come in and dominate. Scottree Humphrey did break off a 61-yard touchdown run and had 161 yards or 140. I can't remember. He's over 100 yards, well over. But I think they expected more 6 yards, 5-yard runs, dirty runs, physical runs, and they didn't. That defensive front confused them. And Coach Eck said that yesterday. They expected, but then Ryan, you mentioned, because I was texting you, I was in Silver City. How did they look? They finished the game off with some good runs. But, between the second and third, first and second quarter into the third, not except, Humphrey's long run, they got a wheel route out of the backfield from Bankston. But the running game, I think they expected to run and be physical and control the line of scrimmage. And that defensive front confused them. It confused their blocking schemes and muddled things up as far as running lanes. So, that was one of the notes. The other thing was I thought that their 2-quarterback platoon system threw New Mexico's defense totally out of whack. I'll tell you this: I thought Idaho State came in with a good game plan. I really did, and they were on the cusp of opening drive. Think about that opening drive. The receiver drops the pass and Murphy intercepts. Big break for New Mexico. The other thing is that I thought was a game changer for Idaho State, and they got the momentum back. Dorian Thomas, New Mexico's up 14-3 and driving, and on a screen pass he fumbles. So a couple of game-changing plays there. That gave momentum back to Idaho State. It's a win. You mentioned that. I don't want to be, slamming a win. They need to win. It's hard to win. They don't win a lot. So I give them credit there. But I got to tell you, I think Idaho State's game plan was solid. I'm a little concerned. And Coach Eck, somebody asked him about it. I think it was Sean about the receiving game because Coach Eck had said we need to make more vertical passing plays in the passing game. And we're not seeing a lot of that. And, they don't have a lot of depth or experience. I was watching the broadcast on altitude, and Smith, the freshman receiver, went out for a route and didn't, according to Dontrell Moore, get enough separation on his route. He hasn't run it enough, and it was incomplete. So losing Luke Wysong and a developing Nick Trujillo, who's going to be dynamite this year, hurt them. They don't have a lot of depth there. So I'm a little concerned about their right now, their lack of explosive passing plays. Like Michigan, you could see that. They ran Dorian Thomas on those screens, tight end screens, and they did well. But I expected to see a little bit more out of the passing game, but they did. They made the plays when they needed to, and they won the game. And those are just some things I saw on defense. I thought Keyshawn James, newbie, he's got bend and flex at the defensive end position. He can bend and flex and get after the passer. They didn't put a whole lot of pressure because Idaho State got the ball out quick. But I think he's going to be. We mentioned. I think he's going to have a lot of sacks. I really do. Jackson Eck, 15 tackles again. I don't know if I saw Tavion Combs out there. I didn't hear his name at all. I don't know if he was even out there, but I thought those are some of the bright spots I saw. And then the offensive line blocking, and when they needed to run the ball, they ran the ball and they killed the clock. So I'll give them credit there. But I thought some of those things that Coach Eck brought up too, that I think Idaho State had a very good game plan, and New Mexico seemed a little confused at first.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think the big, I don't know what you can say about Dorian Thomas, because he acts like a wide receiver. And his first 2 games have been phenomenal. Brad Benson from KRQE and I talked to him after practice yesterday, and he said that 2-point conversion, he was like, I didn't know it was coming to me, and Jack didn't know he was throwing it to me. So little improvisation. That's what happens. A big kudos to David Murphy. Talked to him. I love the guy, Ed, because he said he had New York roots. He's got like a Statue of Liberty tatted up on him. He's a big Giants fan. He made the comment to me. I need to get him on the show just because of that. But, a big interception on that, one of those early drives.
Opening drive.
It was the opening drive. Yeah, and it saved a touchdown. That was stuff that they didn't get last year. I mean, kind of to change the subject, I mean, this is a better defense than I think what we saw last year. I mean, I would think that's the case. I mean, they couldn't stop anybody last year. But kudos to him. I thought it was a great, awesome play that he made. And, he's a hometown kid. I accidentally said he went to Rio Rancho High. He's from Rio Rancho. He went to Cleveland. That's a big no-no. I get that. But for a local kid, Ed, you and I are both from here, but that might have saved the game. You look in, talk to Ned about it, but 4 or 5, 6 plays a game. I mean, that was big. What were your thoughts on that?
You know what? I'm watching. I had to watch the replay the next day on the Mountain West, and they put together an impressive drive. They did, and then really, if you think about it, the Idaho State, it's a slant, and and he dropped it and right into Murphy's hands. That's a big play. Big play. That's 6 points. It's a big momentum swing, and New Mexico starts backed up against their own goalpost, but they got the ball back, and there was no score there. And I agree with you about Dorian Thomas. I like that kid. Tough, physical football player, man. He's going to make a lot more plays, and they're going to go to him a lot in the passing game. But I thought that play by Murphy, and you're right. He's from Cleveland, man. And we had Daniel Amaro, the Las Cruces running back, Cleveland #1 versus #2 Las Cruces on Friday at Lightning Bolt Stadium. So it's good to see a local kid make the plays, man. So I enjoyed that part of it, and but you know what? And Sean Ryder had a good article, Ryan. Why was the game closer than it should have been, or something like that? And I read it, and there's the reasons why. Coach Eck said that yesterday. They came out with a good game plan. I thought they punched New Mexico in the face, and the first half with their 2 platoon system, they got the ball out quick, short routes. The cornerbacks playing a little bit back, and they made some good plays. But give New Mexico credit. They made the plays when they needed to. They ran the ball and killed the clock, and they came away with their first victory. Winning is always good here because sometimes we don't see them win enough. So I thought it was a solid victory, but there were some little pitfalls there, and I'm anxious to see what they're going to do Friday night at UCLA. UCLA is 0-2 now, and so they're what are they, 14-point favorites? I can't remember what it was.
14.5, which
14.5.
I would say in a normal setting is pretty low given what UCLA's, Devin Dampier, they lit them up. I'll ask Ned James about Devin too. I mean, he was telling me yesterday at practice, he's so efficient. It's insane. Jackson Echt had a great game. 15 tackles and 9 of them were solo. I mean, props to him. Yeah. 15. Okay. There's math doing it well. 15 total, 8 solo. So good job to him. Ed, before I let you go, and you're going to join us back when Ned James joins the show at about 5-ish. Any other final thoughts? I mean, a win, a win is a win, and I'll get Will's thoughts on it. But I was more impressed in the loss than I was in the win. I know that's weird to say, but any other final thoughts?
Real quick, they they had 17,000, and that's the largest. And I understand what you're saying. I was there when they had 45,000 against New Mexico State. I was there. I remember an Aggie and Lobo fan right in front of me. I thought they were going to start fighting. They're yelling at each other, screaming at each other, and we're like, man, they're going to fight, but they didn't. But you got to remember, you and I both know, since Coach Long left, it's been, as far as attendance, Bob Davie had 2 winning seasons, 22,000. They got to start somewhere. So 17,000 may not seem like a lot to what we used to see, but it's a start. That's the way I look at it. We've been there when nobody's there. So I'm hoping, Fernando Lobo is trying new things. But you know what? You got to win. Bottom line, you got to win. I'm already projecting the crowd next week, 23,000 for New Mexico State, I would think. Now, if they win big against UCLA, you might see 25 to 27. But I'm thinking 23 to 25, I'll call it. So those are just my thoughts real quick. I understand where you're at with the crowd, because you didn't miss a game. I didn't miss a game. We used to take Nick out there. I remember when they beat Texas Tech on the last second field goal. I remember that. So I'm just hoping for better times for them and stack some wins together. But they've got some things to work on. I think that vertical passing game concerns me a little bit. Like I said, they don't have the depth of the experience, and I'm just anxious to see what Ned James says at 5.
No, we'll talk to him then. Ed, I will talk to you back at 5.
Right.
Thanks.
In a bit, man.
All right. And whoops, I accidentally hit the transition there. But hey, let me just do it just for shits and giggles there, Will. Nothing like hosting and producing the show myself.
Like that. That's a cool fade right there.
Yeah, I give my credit as it is due. So Sean Ryder couldn't join us tonight. Well, anyway.
So I plan B. Is that what this is?
Yeah, we got plan B tonight. I always do love talking to him. He's from the Santa Fe, New Mexican, Mr. Will Weber. Will, how you doing tonight? Now that
you're interrupting me on my day off, so I'm watching the Angels game in my bedroom as the kids go study downstairs. So that's how it's going today, man.
That's how it's going today. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I always appreciate you joining and shooting the shit with us. We had you on last week, and I mean, to take away from this game, I will ask you this, and I just mentioned it to Ed. I felt more confident walking out of Michigan State and with a loss than a 32-22 win over Idaho State. What did you take away from that game?
Yeah, uninspiring, that's for sure. But when you're the UNM football team, the bar is set pretty low. So it's like what you guys said right before I came on. A win is a win, and you'll take it. But yeah, you coming off that Michigan game, you're kind of expecting these guys to roll all over an Idaho State team that frankly isn't all that good. And they struggled, man. They're up 14-3. It looked like the game was going to turn into a blowout, and then it didn't. They loboed their way into a win right there. But you know what? Hey, at least they're not going to go winless. They got to win, and now you have a tiny modicum of momentum going into UCLA. I know people are pretty optimistic. There's part of me that wants to be optimistic, but fact is you're going against a Big Ten team on the road. A Big Ten team that's lost once to a team from the Mountain West, and they cannot afford to lose to a team that's outside the G4. They can't. So they're going to be treating this one a lot more importantly than they typically would. So I don't know. It's going to be a tall task going out there and winning on Friday. But that said, who knows, man? Maybe they got a shot. If they can do all the things that they've been doing, like avoid the penalties, avoid dumb turnovers, and actually finish a couple drives. Look, stranger things have happened, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Utah annihilated UCLA. I was in Michigan. I was in Ann Arbor for that, and I saw that score and was like, "Holy hell!" And then I caught a lot late the UNLV UCLA game late, and Nico Iamaleava kind of turned it on and made things interesting. I think the question at UCLA is, can Deshaun Foster put all this talent together? That might be it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they've certainly got a lot. They have access to a lot more goodies in the cupboard than UNM does. And if they're not putting it together, if they can't win with the talent they have, then it shows you that maybe it's not so much the personnel, maybe it is the coaching staff. But UCLA, it's been a long time since UCLA has been pretty good. And the fact that there are 18 teams in the Big Ten. And they're the only winless team right now. One of their losses was to a Mountain West school. So I'm not sure UCLA has been this low. I mean, you'd have to go back decades, probably the last time UCLA was in a position that they're in right now. And so I think in some ways they're probably looking at this UNM game like, you know what, we're about to go into the Big Ten. This might be one of the last times we have a shot at winning a game, because I did watch the Utah game. I did not go to Michigan, and Devin Dampier looked every bit as good as UNM fans remembered him being. It's like that. That's what Dampier looks like when he has, group of 5 talent around him. That's a really powerful talent around him. So yeah, it's going to be it'll be interesting. I wish I were going, but hey, unfortunately, Ryan, some of us have to stay back here and cover high school games on a Friday night. So
there are choices made in life, and I've allowed this one to just strictly cover UNM athletics. Although Ed and Nick do a good job of high school sports, I know there is a big game in Rio Rancho on Friday night, right? Is it Cleveland and Las Cruces? We had the kid on last night, but that's how much I pay attention to high school here. You know what I was thinking about? Have you ever watched the U, the 30 for 30? What was it? Yeah. The U part 1 and part 2. I'm one of those guys who thinks that when Miami football is good, it's good for college football. And they beat UCLA when UCLA was vying for a spot in like the 2001 or 2002 national title game. I mean, I think you talked to Eck. UCLA was in the Rose Bowl. I mean, they find Diamond Dorian Thompson Robinson. I mean, Troy Aikman went there, transfer from Oklahoma. I mean, when I was at Michigan State, I'm walking around, I'm like, Michigan State does just not have a basketball lineage. Michigan State has a pretty prominent football program, and I forgot about that. So I don't know. I think that's fascinating. I'm like I said, I'm repeating myself. I'm more excited for this football game than I am at Michigan. And I'm praying
because you get to go to California. That's why you get to go to the beaches and do that.
I mean, I'm in and out on this trip, and I will be remiss being that I have a guy who lived in North Jersey and worked out of New York City. I'm flying into Burbank, and LA is not for me. I'm a San Diego guy. But then again, you might have, I'm going to sound like a creepy old man here. You might have, some legs walking next to me and then the sunshine, and I'll be like, all right, I'm happy to be in Pasadena. I'm a big, like I've said, the Rose Bowl is my bucket list. The Rose Bowl game is my bucket list. So,
I forgot. That's right. You worked in the city. You were in New York. So, and look, tomorrow's 9/11. Where were you on 9/11? You weren't in the Big Apple, were you?
I was at St. Pius X High School, and I remember seeing the and you're bringing it up. I don't like to fly, and I'm flying on 9/11. Stick that to me. That's for me telling you you were Plan B. That was. I remember seeing. This is a conversation that's going off the rails. I remember seeing the second plane hit, but I will tell you, I've been in Manhattan. And I was down near the World Trade Center in downtown Manhattan on September 11th, 2018. And then 2017, I was there. So I've been in the city when it happened. And I worked with a couple guys in New Jersey who worked in the city when 9/11 happened. And they were like, it was, you could smell it in Midtown. It was, I don't know, it was a crazy thing. But I was there in Manhattan on July 31st, 2001. So you want to talk about eerie shit. There you go.
Wow. There you go. Yeah. It's weird because most kids that we cover these days, they weren't even alive back when 9/11 happened. And you really start to sound like an old man. Like, I remember where I was.
Yeah.
I'm starting to sound like my dad. Oh, the Kennedy shooting. I remember where I was when the Kennedy got shot. Yeah.
No, you know what, being that it's 9, with tomorrow, I will bring it up with my mom. And she'll be like, I know where I was when Kennedy was shot. She'll say the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the transition. I will post my picture that I've taken standing in Hoboken or Jersey City where you can see downtown Manhattan. I post that every year. But you want to talk about it. If you're going to talk about me shitting on LA, Working in Manhattan is a gift and a curse because I do miss it, but I don't miss it because I commuted, and people here bitch and moan and there's nothing like it. And I had an Uber driver recently. He was like, "Yeah, I was in Houston. I grew up in Houston." And he's like, "People here just don't understand what good traffic's like." But transitioning from your Angels scored, by the way. Transitioning
therefore they got Jansen in there. Jansen, who's probably older than I am at this point. He's
I think earlier in the year when I saw that he was with the Angels, I was like, he's still pitching, but
I tell you what, man, the Angels, they've got 67 wins. All they have to do is go 5, and I believe 5-12 is the worst they could do to avoid 90 losses. So that's what every Angels fan's hanging on to right now. Just go 5-12. Let's avoid 90 losses.
But they were kind of a hard out earlier in the year. Like, I watched them because I have a gambling problem, and I bet against them, and they were like that team you didn't want to play.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they had the worst run differential in the American League this year. They're minus like 110, but I still love them. Just like I'm a huge Redskins fan, I still love those guys. But I'm going to actually go see the Angels. They're in Denver next weekend, or they're on the 20th. They're playing the Rockies, which I would imagine with the Rockies and the Angels, there's going to be about 15,000 people there. It's going to be like going to an Isotopes game, but. I have to go see my boys. If they're in this area, I have to make a pilgrimage. So you get to go to LA, you get to go to the Rose Bowl, to Pasadena, maybe drop by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory while you're at it. I'm going to Denver to watch the Rockies and the Angels.
Well, I'm in Denver a lot over the course of the next, I should say Denver over the course of the next couple of months. Because I've boycotted Southwest, so much for them sponsoring the show ever, and flying United Airlines, and obviously United's a hub. And I hadn't connected in Denver in forever, and I'm coming back from the Michigan game, and I'm landing in Denver, and I'm looking out the window, and you just forget that airport, one, has tons of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Two, is in the middle of nowhere. You're landing in Denver, and you're like landing in Kansas.
And it's enormous. That's just a huge airport. I mean, as far as area goes, it just goes on forever.
I will gladly fly into there than Las Vegas.
Hey, but the reason you go to Denver is you drive there, and on your way into town, you pass right by that IKEA. It's just right off of I-25, just as you're getting into Denver. And you cannot go to Denver without going to IKEA, especially since I've got my wife with me. She'll go to the Angels game with me. She'll throw me the bone, but we've got to stop at IKEA on the way in there. And I'm sure I'll come back with something that I'll have to put together, and there's no instructions. And like last time we went up there and I bought a light set for my kitchen, and it didn't come with any of the wiring. So I had to MacGyver the whole thing and set it. It took me 2 months to put the lights in, but I finally got it. Thanks for that one, IKEA.
Well, I'm going to purposely have you fly into Newark, New Jersey. And I want you to look out, hopefully while you're landing, looking at the Atlantic Ocean or New York City, and you see the Statue of Liberty. I don't know if you've ever done that, but there's the Jersey Turnpike. And then when you're taking off or landing, if you've got the right seat, if you're looking east, guess what's right there? Think about it. You just mentioned it, the store.
No, really?
It's a massive IKEA across and I've been in there. I bought a bed frame in there. This thing goes on forever. It's like you see it, and it's probably like the entire distance of the runway. I don't know if it's a mile long.
What's underrated about IKEA is the food. The food is cheap, and it's fast, and it's actually pretty good. It's kind of like going to Costco to eat. It's the same thing.
Yes, it is. I ate at the IKEA in Newark, New Jersey, across from Newark Liberty International Airport, and all you just see is United after United after United play. All right, this probably might be, this is the Billy Madison thing. You're now dumber for in the incoherent rap. I have to stop at the IKEA on the way into Denver, and I have to say, I will buy you the plane ticket just to go to the. Don't even go see New York City. Just go to the IKEA.
All right.
In Newark, New Jersey. This is the squirrel transition. We went from 9/11 to IKEA. The penalties that UNM didn't commit. Hey, they've only have 3 in 2 games. They were really bad last year. I mentioned
That's
that
crazy.
to Ed.
Yeah, they led the country
your thoughts
in
on that?
penalties.
Was that?
Yeah, they were the worst team in the country. They led the country in penalties, and now all of a sudden they have the fewest penalties, which is one of the most amazing turnarounds in college football history. If they can keep it up, go from the most undisciplined team for probably 2 or 3 years running to all of a sudden they're a service academy, because the service academy guys never get flags. They're basically like Air Force, Army, and Navy wrapped into one right now.
That's impressive. You should ask Jason Eck that. That's impressive.
Yeah. I would, but I actually did ask him that after the first game, the Michigan game and the post-game press conference, and he attributed the whole thing to the coaching staff, which I thought was interesting. Usually he'd say, well, the players are really disciplined. He's like, no, it's a coaching thing. We basically have them in the right, like, good job, dude, patting yourself in the back. I like it. I like it. I like the confidence.
So I know I asked you what you thought about him last week, and I know that you've said that Richard Pitino is your favorite UNM coach to cover. And I don't want
Birmingham. I think is actually number 1. Pitino was probably number 2. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. X said blow your wad yesterday, and I don't want to get him in trouble, but I think and I swear he can come back to me at this. I think he had a Zyn can or a dip can in his pocket. I'm like, this guy. I've said it. He's just one. I've said it. And if he gets mad at me for saying this on the show, I meant no disrespect or to get you in trouble with your wife, but he's just one of us. And that's what I like about him.
Yeah, he's a dude. That's what I like. He's just a guy. Like, you never got that impression from Davey. Davey he had no interest in hanging out with us or talking to us, making small talk. Danny Gonzalez was a pretty normal guy. Like, he would come to all the Lobo basketball games. He'd sit right in front of us, and he wasn't there to politic. He was just there to watch the basketball game, he and his wife. So I would say Eck is a lot like Danny Gonzalez in that way, where he's a man of the people. He just wants to be there. But, yeah, he's got very much let's grab a beer and go out and watch some professional fishing or something like that. He's that kind of guy. I really like him. But and I like how he also – I think initially he took my question about taking a train to Los Angeles for half the team. He took it literally at first. I'm not sure if he knew I was kind of joking around with him. But look, to his credit, the answer he gave me on that question, I wrote an entire story about it in today's paper, which was kind of funny.
No, but it was a good – I thought he obviously realized it was a joke, but he snapped. And then he kind of made a joke about the coaching, or was it you that made the entire coaching staff would be on the train both ways.
Yeah.
But so where is the page? Frank said it. I got the notes right here. This is great live.
Page 12 in the notes.
Page 12 in the notes.
There's also a good website. It's called footballarchaeology.com, and they have a whole story about it, about the first flight. That there was a halftime fireworks show, and the lighting was pretty bad. And that's back when the Rose Bowl basically the capacity was about 75,000 seats, but about 20,000 of them were made out of wood. It wasn't even concrete yet. So it was just initially starting to take the shape that it's in right now.
So they played Coincidental College and lost in 1929. Occidental College, excuse me.
Occidental, which, by the way, was where Barack Obama started his college career, was at Occidental. So there you go.
I did not know that. Hey, fun fact and history facts at Jeopardy today.
Yeah, right.
I watch Jeopardy every day. I thought I had Final Jeopardy right yesterday. I guessed Pink Floyd, but the correct answer was Queen. It was a category right up my alley. But anyway,
I could see same genre, age type thing. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
But I do like the thing about Occidental College. I looked them up too. They're playing Division III football, but they refer to themselves a lot as Oxy, which I found interesting. Like, I don't know. I thought you guys were banned. I thought that was you couldn't get your hands on that stuff anymore.
That's I'm going to read Frank's notes because this is what I do. I'm applauding Frank here because this is what I do like that he does, being that my degree is in history. He does do tidbits like this. New Mexico has played in the Rose Bowl before, and it was a rather historic occasion. The Lobos played Occidental College in the Rose Bowl on October 10th, 1929. in between world wars there. To get there, instead of train or busing, the Lobos became the first collegiate football team to fly a game. UNM took a pair of transcontinental air transport planes, the precursor to TWA, which is no longer in existence, and put half the team on those planes while the other half took the train as the norm at the time. Easily won their UNM. They lost 26-0. Well, anyway, that's pretty cool. I guess fast forwarding to the future, you said you watched the Utah game. I missed it. I watched some of UNLV UCLA because that's very important to us. I guess Lobo fans and guys that cover the Lobos.
Mm-hmm.
What did you take away that you saw at UCLA? Because I thought Nico Iamaleava looked pretty damn good towards the end. It was too little, too late.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is UNLV's defense probably softened up a little bit because they can kind of play some of that prevent stuff, which is why maybe it opens up the field for them. But when you fall behind 20 points, like UNLV's a good team. They're picked second in the preseason. UNLV's going to be right there. They can certainly knock off some power conference clubs, and so it wasn't a huge surprise that they beat UCLA. But the fact that UCLA came back on them late doesn't surprise me, and I think that anyone's trying to build some momentum for the Bruins based on the last quarter and a half, I think it's just it's unfounded at this point. I think UCLA is a team that's definitely struggling. They're kind of reaching desperation mode. And the fact that you can pronounce that quarterback's name when most people probably have no idea who that guy is, other than the fact that he transferred from Tennessee, like I think that's probably the most impressive thing I've seen you do in a long time.
I taught myself how to say Tua Tagovailoa and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I purposely did it. I don't know why. And then I purposely learned how to say his name, Nico Iamaleava, because it was irritating to me. And most people butcher my last name, and it's not even Italian. So I get the double whammy.
How do you pronounce your last name? I would. That's curious. How do
it is Tamori, but when your mom's named Mary, and we used to get solicitors. Like telemarketers back in the 90s when you had an answering machine, people used to call and ask if Mary Tamari was there. Yeah.
Tamori. So the last A is pronounced as an O then, Tamori.
Well, it's three different ways on Ellis Island. It's Tomari, it's Tamari, and Tomre. But I've learned to say Tamori. So there you
go.
Yeah. And it's Hungarian, if anybody cares.
Hungarian. Okay.
Yeah, not Italian, because people just assume that my parents are from New Jersey. The last name has a vowel at the end, and then my dad hung out with Tony Soprano. Even though he was
some mafia roots in there somewhere.
Yeah. Even though he was the farthest thing from that, writing PhD, working on his PhD and writing a patent. Well, that apple fell far from the tree. That's why I'm doing this shit that I
gotcha. That's where you get the money to start your podcast, is all that mafia money, residual mafia from your grandfather who ran a garbage disposal business in New Jersey, apparently, right?
It was a front.
Yeah.
And had a mansion in what's the name of that? I always forget the name of that town that he lived in. The house is real. It's like Breaking Bad.
I never watched The Sopranos. I couldn't get into it. I tried doing it, and it didn't stick. It's like how Breaking Bad didn't work for some people, but The Sopranos just never fit for me. I don't know what it was.
So when I first watched, funny story about Breaking Bad. When I first watched, I never watched Breaking Bad. I never got into it. And when I was agate clerk at the Journal, on Sunday nights we'd get out early because of the NFL. And my buddy and I, like the only place open to get a beer, my friend Gil and I lived down the street from each other. And he was like, Club B's, as in Applebee's. And I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, I had 3 days of like walking out at 12:30 or 1 a.m. over agate clerk with a knot down, waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. Did I send my page?
I know all about that. I did.
Yeah, you can relate to that. So anyway, we walked into I think the football game ended early and easy, and Ed Johnson, one of my favorite people, got out there maybe like quarter to 10, And my buddy was like, I'll meet you at Applebee's because at least the bar was still open till midnight. We'd sit there and shoot the shit and I'd decompress. And not like I was doing brain surgery or anything. But that's the first real episode of Breaking Bad I watched. They had it on in the Applebee's. And it was the very last episode. So I saw the entire ending before I had seen the entire series.
Really?
And
Wow.
yeah, and then I sat down on Netflix and watched it. And I just thought the first season, I was like, this is what people loved. Then I got into it. And I was like, okay. And I rewatched it when I moved back from New Jersey. And I was like, the first season isn't as bad as I thought it would be. But I caught you watching the boys leaving Cleveland from the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Have you watched Peacemaker?
No, that show doesn't do it for me either. John Cena just doesn't look like he looks like a clown to me, circus clown. So
have you watched any episodes of it?
No. Yeah, there's some shows where it's like it's judging a book by its cover, and I'm judging that book by its cover. I don't like it. I have too many Angels games I got to watch. There's only they have a finite amount of time on my days off to watch stuff, and it's usually these clowns avoiding 90 wins or 90 losses.
I think you need to sit down and watch Peacemaker because you will laugh. That is getting to know you. That is up your alley because it's like The Boys. Although The Boys is raunchier. But it's very funny when you tell people you're an Angels fan, given the fact that the Dodgers are in LA. I feel the same way because I'm like, oh, I'm a Mets fan. Like I had somebody give me shit. They're like, oh, you're a Mets fan. I was like, I always tell people like, nobody's perfect. It's all what I always say.
Well, I tell you, the origin story for my Angels loyalty, which by the way, I love these two guys too. But when I grew up in Santa Fe, they had KTLA and WOR was broadcast up there too, but KTLA carried all the Angels games. And as a little kid, I just loved waking up on Saturday mornings. They always had a guy that would draw cartoons and sing songs from this like little shanty shack type thing right on a pier by the ocean. And then he would always talk about the Angels. And then they'd show a highlight version of the Angels game from the night before right afterwards. And I thought, what cool uniforms those guys have. Those are odd, navy blue and red. I like the halo. And so that's how I became an Angels fan. And I didn't know I was just torturing myself with a lifetime of suckitude because they've made the playoffs when I was 9 years old for the first time. They completely broke my heart in high school in 1986 when they lost to the Red Sox. That's why there are I cannot stand two things in my life. One, the Dallas Cowboys, because I'm a Redskins fan. And two is the Boston Red Sox because of 1986, the playoffs, which I still have that entire series on VCR tapes in my garage. I've sealed them and I'm keeping them forever. But that 1986 series against the Red Sox, they're up 3-1. Game 5 is in Anaheim. They're about to close it out in the top of the ninth. They completely collapsed. And I absolutely cannot stand the Boston Red Sox for that reason. I hate the Red Sox more than I hate the Cowboys, which is, you might not ever hear that from anyone else, but a true Angels fan looks at the Red Sox and be like, I just wish they would fold and go away.
Well,
yeah, with that, take that. Yeah, follow that one, Mets fan. What do you got?
Well, with that said, I tell this joke all the time. I mean, I got the tri-state, I got the roots there, and I'm a Mets and Giants fan because when I was in my mother's womb, the Mets won the World Series, and then I was still in my mother's womb when the Giants defeated the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 21. But with that said, because I love history, were you rooting for the Mets in that World Series, or did you not watch the World Series at all?
No, the best part about that World Series is watching Bill Buckner have that ball go between his legs. Like, that's what you get, Red Sox, because you were that close. You were that close to winning the World Series. And somewhere upstairs, if there is such a thing as that, you got exactly that person was just like, I'm going to pay you back. Karma is a biatch for the Red Sox. So to me, that's I know, Bill Buckner eventually played for the Angels and he kind of wound down his career. And of course, everyone forgave him. But in that moment, the 16-year-old version of myself was like, that was awesome. That was, you know what? It makes the pain just a little bit better for me. So, no, was I rooting for the Mets? Not necessarily. I was rooting against the Red Sox. That's what I was really doing.
That's fair enough. That's like all the people I talk to. They're like, I was a Giants fan. You know, I have friends that are Cowboy fans. Like, I was a Giants fan for one day, and I was like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm insufferable. You got to listen to me talk. Like, what? I don't know what.
Well, I'm married to a Cowboys fan. I got to sit here and, of course, I had to watch the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders thing on Netflix, and then they roll out the Jerry Jones Fluffer Fest on Netflix with that series that just came out. I was like, can we talk about any other team, please, for crying out loud? Any other team?
I used to give some of my friends when I still, you know, I care, but I don't. I care less. But I always tell people, like, I always tell Cowboy fans, I'm like, think about this. The Arizona Cardinals, the Phoenix Arizona Cardinals made a Super Bowl. The Saints won a Super Bowl. The Carolina Panthers have been to 2 Super Bowls since you've last won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Patriots did their thing. I mean, it's, you know, I think within the last like 4 or 5 years, I think Cowboy fans are just like, they assumed that they had a star on their helmet and they would win. And I think that is long gone now. It's almost like the Yankees with the NY. Look, we're pushing 20 years. It's 2009. It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, I tell you, living with a Cowboys fan, I can tell you that's not entirely true, because every single year it's like, this is our year. Every single year there's this overwhelming sense of optimism that it takes 8 weeks to extinguish usually before they start to fade. But the best parts to me are when the Cowboys make the playoffs and it looks promising, like a couple years ago when they lost the 49ers and that Dak Prescott run up the middle play at the end of the game. Those are the best ones to me. That the dropped Tony Romo snap on the field goal, those are the best things, because I want them to get there and then just rip their fans' hearts out. That's I don't want them to go 3-14. I want them to go 11-6, make the playoffs, and just completely implode in the worst way possible. That's more satisfying to me. That is the level of my distaste for. I root more for teams to lose than I do for my own team to win sometimes. That's how it goes.
We're both UNM alumni, and there was a solid decade and maybe more where I got satisfaction out of the UNM football team losing. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. I mean, there's reasons why, but
yeah, well, it's that's the thing is people always, you run into that a lot where people are like, well, you went to UNM, can you not support them more? It's like, but the thing is, when you work in media and you get to know some of these guys, for the most part, it washes away that fandom. You don't feel like putting on the cherry and silver socks, because you find out the way some of these people really are. Like Dave Bliss, my first job was covering the Lobos when Dave Bliss was coaching there, and I thought he could walk on water. And the first time I ever met him, he called me into his office, and I'm just a student newspaper guy, and he's got a dictionary on his desk, and he would find a new word in the dictionary every single day and use that in the language. You'd use some obtuse word, and I'm an idiot college kid with giant stars in my eyes thinking this guy's a hero. But it took me about 20 minutes to learn he's kind of a jerk. He was a real pain in the neck to work with. And it kind of, I don't know, it takes that nostalgia you have for a team and you lose it pretty quickly. And plus you got a job to do. You realize there's no cheering on press row. You just have a win or lose. You got to write an obituary or a success story almost every single day. And you can't allow yourself to have any kind of soft feelings. And over the years, I can honestly say the only time I like to see the Lobos win is it usually gets me out of the office and it gives me something better to do, like going to Cleveland, going to Salt Lake City, going to Portland for some of these events.
it's funny because I told a few people, hey, we're going to Cleveland. They're like, oh, the Mistake by the Lake. And I'm like, look, I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I lived in New Jersey.
Right.
Cleveland was great. And then I told somebody, I was like, Detroit was great. I was walking around downtown Detroit, and downtown Detroit was clean. There were cops everywhere. Like, I loved it. It was, I thought Cleveland was great. I know we've talked about that, but yeah, I mean, for us to stick around in Cleveland for what I flew in Wednesday night and left Monday, it was pretty awesome.
Cleveland to me is only 2 blocks long though.
Yeah.
It was the media hotel was right. It was within walking distance. You could literally see the arena from the media hotel. And the entire time I was there, it was from the hotel to the arena and back because I was writing the entire time. Of course, everyone else is like, we're going to go drive down to Canton and see the Hall of Fame. We're going to go do this. When the hell do you have time to do that? I'm writing 4 or 5 stories a day. I'm doing interviews. There's no time for any of that. But so look, someday I would like to go back to Cleveland and actually see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe even see the river that caught on fire. That would be kind of cool. Like go see the Browns Stadium would be kind of neat. Who knows? But yeah, Cleveland to me, like everyone's like, oh, did you see this, that, and had no idea. Like Memphis, same thing. The year before, never saw anything other than the fact there was like a Martin Luther King statue between the hotel and the arena. That was it. That's the only part of Memphis I ever saw. Wow. Do you got a quarter? I'm going to call the ambulance for crying out loud. Yeah, damn.
I'm not complaining. No, my buddy in Cleveland, I was with you majority of the time. He went to the Christmas Story house. He went to a submarine that killed like, I don't know how many Japanese during the war. Like it sunk like 40 ships. And then he went and saw LeBron James play. And I was like, I was just at the arena.
Yeah.
And I didn't write as much as you. I wrote, but it was like I was there working away on, I guess with the court that we were sitting on was the one they won the title on, or so. I don't remember. Oh no, they won in Golden State. But anyway, boy, we went off on a tangent there. Yeah. I forgot what else I was
for the weekend. I'll ask you that. Did the Lobos have a chance?
I think they do have a chance. It's 14.5. I think they have a chance from what I've seen. I think, I don't know how you feel about this. They had Michigan week 1, Idaho State, and then they're immediately back into, it's not Big Ten country. It's the Pac-10. It's the Pac-12, but they're immediately at a big school in a historic venue. I mean, that's, I think the coolest thing about this schedule and why I was pretty much for going to it was Michigan Stadium, the Rose Bowl. They go to Boise. They play at Air Force. Air Force is a cool game. Yeah. And then they play at Allegiant Stadium. Like these away games are, I think, phenomenal venues.
Yeah, the Bay Area. You get to go to San Jose State too. I mean, San Jose State's not beautiful, but you get to fly into the Bay Area.
I am flying into the Bay Area, so call the ambulance. Yeah, I think they can cover 14.5. What do you think?
I think they can cover, but if I will say this though, if they win that game, you could make the case that is one of the biggest, if not the biggest win in program history. And granted, UCLA is not the UCLA that we all remember as kids, but it's still UCLA, and they're still a Big Ten team. And if you can go on the road, win that thing, you come back here 2-1 with the Aggies coming up next. I think you could put 30,000 people in University Stadium for that game. The problem is the Aggie game's on a Saturday afternoon, and in the land of people don't need an excuse not to do anything. People might say, "Oh, it's too hot, it's too sunny, or whatever." But if they can come back from LA with a win, it would really, I think you could maybe have a tangible sense that maybe the football team is doing well. And look, everyone talks with that, the pie in the sky attitude when the Rocky Long days, when it was so great. But the reason the Rocky Long days were so great was the basketball team absolutely sucked back then. And so there was a window where football kind of squeaked ahead a little bit, and Franchione had kind of set the pace for that, and they kind of took off with it. You don't get that same sense that there's a title shift coming, but it doesn't mean that UNM cannot get to a point where maybe they are drawing 20,000 fans a game. But it starts with games like this, and it's a huge ask for them to go to LA and come out with a win. I don't think they win Friday, but I don't think they embarrass themselves. And I hope more than anything that the Lobos prove me wrong, that they actually do come back with a win. But I see UCLA winning this thing like around 30-24 type game.
Yeah, that's my fear. I think that they UCLA is kind of, or they could completely collapse. I mean, I don't know. I think it could be. I think Vegas is showing the Lobos love at 14.5. Because Michigan was 34.5 and it went up to like 36. Mm-hmm. So I think that this game is, 14.5. I mean, I mean, now I'm going to bug you next week because if they win or lose, the reaction. But I mean, if they win, I would probably say, yeah, that might be other than BYU during Francione and then the regular season New Mexico Bowl. I mean, I kind of agree with you that this would be the biggest win in program history because you're also winning at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, when they beat Utah when Utah was nationally ranked. When they beat Fresno State, the year Fresno State was undefeated. It would certainly be one of the biggest wins they've ever had. And look, UNM's history is not that great, so it's not that hard to go out and find some really big wins because there's just not that many of them. But man, it's one of you're beating a team that's down, but they still have that name recognition in a historic venue. So yeah, it'd be a pretty cool win. But it's a Friday night 8:00 game for all those newspaper guys out there. It's gonna be stressful for me. That's why I'm starting to get all this gray hair. Man, I'm starting to look like an old man. So
well, at least it starts at 7:00 my time.
Yeah.
But man, I would only
still got that deadline out here though, man.
Yeah, you do. I can do. I mean, I try to get out our stuff as quickly as I possibly can. Now I got Arch working for us, so check out our website. Even though I have another writer from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Will, I always appreciate your time, man. I really do. Thank you for joining us. I don't want to keep you any longer on your day off because it was well over, close to 45 minutes. But we discussed historic events in American history to the Anaheim Angels.
To IKEA. We talked about
IKEA. Yeah, we talked about IKEA. I will say this before I let you go. Those those Angels throwbacks are badass.
Yeah, well, the one I can't wait for is the Redskins are bringing back the Super Bowl era uniforms, which the word on the street is next year when they can finally switch uniforms because you have to keep those uniforms for 5 years. That those become the permanent replacements. You're throwing them back to the way it was before. And there's chatter. They even bring back the logo that was on the helmet because that, in theory, that was not racist. Their name was racist, but the uniform itself was not. So come on. We'll see how that goes.
Man, the Giants look like shit, by the way.
Giants are terrible. Yeah. Russell Wilson should go back to playing baseball because yuck. Yeah, you guys had 7 plays inside the 5-yard line. You scored 3 points. I mean, come on. I feel sorry for you.
He had one throw, and granted, it's probably not his fault, the offensive line. Like, I'm not defending Russell Wilson. He threw the ball, he snapped the ball, and it was like a forward pass, and he just chucked it down. Like, he got the ball and he threw it right away. Like, he knew it was a dead play or something. I don't know. So anyway,
he should have handed the ball off to Saquon Barkley, but then, too bad Saquon didn't play there anymore, which is one of the best personnel moves you guys ever made.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you this before you leave though. And I know he went to Philly. He is such a good guy. I had heard so many good things about him. He's such a good guy. He deserved better. Like, I'm genuinely happy for the guy. Yeah. My fandom dies there because he was just being driven into the ground. And now one season in Philly, he's probably a Hall of Famer now.
Yeah. Good job, Giants, getting rid of that guy. Boy, he was terrible.
This is another conversation for another time, is that the Giants now think their shit don't stink. Their ownership is just as bad as Jerry.
Yeah. Yep.
Ned James is texting me. I am going to say goodbye to Will Weber. Will, I will talk to you next week. Thanks for joining me today.
Anytime, buddy. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate it. Quick commercial break. We'll be back with Ed Nunez and there's Ed. We'll be back with Ed Nunez and Ned James. So quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Ed, thanks for joining back up.
You bet.
The bell is ringing for the Back to School Bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. Don't be late to add up big factory incentives combined with final dealer subtractions on current inventory. Get back to school savings in a new 25 Ford F-150 STX. Buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new 25 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease for just $399 a month. It all adds up to a great time to buy during the Back to School Bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
I will hit you with the triple hey there. All right. Thanks to Will Weber. And Ed Nunez has joined us back, the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and ProView Networks. He's a play-by-play guy there. All right. As we go to one of my favorite people to talk to about football ever, and he's a hoot in general. He played quarterback in 1985, 1986 for the UNM football team, and he is now a radio analyst for the Lobo Radio Network. I think everybody knows his name. It's Mr. Ned James. Ned, how you doing?
Hey guys, good. How you guys doing?
Hanging in there. I will start here. We didn't have you on last week because I was traveling back, and then was going to have you on Monday, short week, and then I had dental work done on Monday. So I want your just straight up takeaway from Idaho State. I thought it was kind of a tale for two games, and that we've kind of celebrated a loss and looked down upon a win. Your thoughts?
That's exactly right. I mean, it's hard to win games, so you got to appreciate the wins. We lost last year to an FCS school. This year, Idaho State looked very good early in the season. Played UNLV to a game that they should have won, and then UNLV goes and beats UCLA. So it was a fight. It was a dog fight. I was glad to see the guys hung in there and was able to pull it out and win by 10. At the end, but people, you could hear some grumbling going on, I'm sure, in the stands when we went down late in the game. But the guys were able to rally. They're playing hard. I go out to watch practice. They practice hard. I mean, I watch that individual period. I like what they do defensively in their individual periods when they do their little circuit drill, when they exchange position coaches, and they do a tackling circuit, and they do a fundamental period where they're working on fundamentals of tackling and shedding blocks and just the fundamentals of the game. And they do that every week. And it's really intense. It's rapid, and they work them hard. And it's hotter than Hades out there. We're out there. It's pretty hot. So they're getting good work, and it shows. And that's when it shows is late in the game, in the fourth quarter. And I've always said, we have an advantage, and I tell basketball guys this all the time. It doesn't matter when a ranked team comes in here, man. When you're coming in at altitude to play, it's rough when it gets late. I don't care who you are. Adjusting to altitude is tough, and our guys should have an advantage when it gets late in games and late in basketball quarters and those kind of things. But I just thought our team did well. The offense, they're protecting the ball, and that's the most important thing. They didn't do it as well in Michigan, and we saw what happened there, and they did it a lot better in this game, and they turned them over. And so we were fortunate. Special teams, they're winning the hidden yardage game there, and that's been okay. It's been good enough for us so far.
I'm going to ask you about the penalties because last year, dead last in the country, that's going to lose you games. Look at the Bears the other night. I thought that was a huge factor. They had 12 penalties for it was bad. But the fact that they have 3 penalties in 2 games, what's your assessment on that? I think that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, you have to really wait and see, you got to see how it averages out as we get into the first quarter of the season. You got another 2 games here. But it's been great. I mean, the discipline, it just shows that, the guys are paying attention and they know what they're doing when they're out there. They're not giving them too much. So guys are jumping off sides or guys are confused and guys are, getting frustrated or anything like that. So, I mean, that's a testament to the coaching staff. So you have to give them credit about that. Last year, the players played for the Gestapo, so we couldn't get in to see practice. They were kind of clandestine in their operation. So, we didn't get a chance to see. And so we couldn't really, we couldn't really talk about exactly why we thought they were having this trouble with penalties. I mean, it would be brought up, but it was kind of, brought up sheepishly. And then, it was kind of dismissed as just, part of the game and, that sort of thing. And it would get explained away. And that was that. But we're able to, be a little bit more around the program now. And so it helps get a relationship with the coach and the staff. And we kind of know just from watching, how things should turn out based on just the performance and the practices and our interaction with the staff and everybody around the football program.
Ed, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Ned, you mentioned the no penalties, and you're watching practice, and I think that's good because you mentioned we didn't have a good handle of what they were doing. We couldn't really see what they did, and their penalties were a lot last year. But I wanted to ask you, I thought Sean Ryder had a very good article in the paper why the game was so close, and they came out. I thought Idaho State had a pretty good game plan, and they kept UNM off balance. And there's that big turnover opening drive for Idaho State when Murphy got that interception. I thought that was a pretty big play. But the defensive front they came out in kind of muddled up the UNM running lanes a little bit. They broke off a few, but Coach Eck talked about that defensive front yesterday that they weren't expecting that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I was a little surprised at Coach Eck saying that he thought the running backs should have played a little bit better. He thought he really kind of expected more out of them, which I understand. We're playing Idaho State. I would expect more out of a FBS running back crew as well. But, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a tale. But one of the things you have to and I had a little conversation with his son, Jackson Eck, at the end of the game, and I thought it was very telling. And I thought the same thing. And so it just was confirmation bias. And it's just so great talking to those coaches' kids because they're so dang smart. Jackson Eck is really a bright kid. And I was explaining it to JJ during the broadcast. I said, this quarterback was really running pretty well. It was, it was a freshman kid or whatever. And it was, you're thinking, well, they're not even playing their starter and they're running three quarterback, the third string quarterback and the second string quarterback. They're rotating them. We should have a handle on them. They should be confused, whatever. But what Jackson was thinking is what I mentioned to JJ. I said, it's tougher to defend a guy that you don't have any tape on. So they didn't really have any tape on these two quarterbacks. So you don't really know. I mean, you're kind of guessing on defense what you think they're going to do. And they really did, they really had a little bit of a change-up because we were expecting a lot more spread and throwing the ball around because that's what their offense typically was. And I don't always buy that because people, they can manufacture runs through screens and that kind of stuff. So, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I don't think they're going to throw it all over the yard. They're going to figure out a way to run. I just didn't think they would run the quarterback like that. They ran the quarterback pretty well. And that young kid played pretty well. And he was a coach's kid, the quarterback, Brian Harson's kid. Was the quarterback, and he ran it pretty well early on in the game. And talking to Jackson, he said he thought the same thing. I thought it was kind of a surprise to him because you have your tips and your keys and your clues, and you kind of hone in on that, and then they come out in something else. And so now you don't recognize these tips and these cues that you studied film on all week, and now they're doing something totally different. So it kind of throws you off. But they were able to maintain their composure, and there wasn't any, the big tall receiver. I don't know if he was 6'4" or whatever they said he was, 6'5", but he made that pretty big leaping catch in the end zone. And so they didn't really have any guys who could really kind of stretch the field on us. And so I thought, we handled them pretty decently on the back end, other than the touchdown, the fade routes that they caught on us. But I thought, defensively that they held up. They bend, but they didn't break. Coach was explaining that, the red zone efficiency was pretty good, and people kind of giggled because they thought the interception was lucky. But in the end, it's all luck. You just got to realize that you got to take advantage of your opportunities. And I thought they took advantage. They took advantage of those opportunities because when you have two new quarterbacks, you may have these formation keys, you may have these tips, but they're doing stuff totally different because they're doing something based on guys that you haven't even seen. And even though they've played 2 games and you're watching those game film, you can just throw those out the window because it's, they're doing a whole new thing. Now, offensively, you're expecting the production because, you've got 2 games on it. What you're going up against. And, they were able to hold us, down early. We got some sustained drives, and then eventually, we broke it open in the end. But it was a good challenge for this team. I mean, it was good to see the resilience. They got a little frustrated over there on the sideline a little bit, but they were able to handle that and come back and get the win.
Ned, I also want to you've moved from the sideline to the booth along with JJ Buck and the first UNM broadcast team, UNM broadcast team in history, UNM history, I believe. So I want to congratulate you on that and congratulate you that you're in the booth, man. I'm really happy. And you and I talked about that on Monday. I want to ask you, Ned, about the offense a little bit. And Coach Eck alluded to this, and I think I asked you a little bit about it. Are you concerned at all with the lack of vertical explosive plays with the wide receivers?
Well, that's something that we're going to have to look at down the road. I mean, it's something that, everybody's asking the questions about who's going to be the guy. We had the big pass interference on the deep ball throw, injured, Keegan Johnson on one of the plays that he got behind the defenders, and we were getting ready to see if we had that guy, and the guy tackled him before the ball got there, and he got injured. So we didn't see very much of that, but I'm gonna hold judgment on that a little bit because the quarterback is really playing efficiently, and I kid with JJ all the time about this efficiency of being over 60%. And he's over 60% in both games, Michigan and the Idaho State game. And so I like that, and he didn't turn it over. So it's those kind of things that I'm watching for. And if he can maintain that, particularly when we get into conference play, that's something to watch. If he's able to kind of keep the ball and don't screw it up, and I think that's why they trust him, and that's why they keep him in there. So I think it's a testament to the offensive productivity, and we're going to see they've got guys who can run a little bit. We may not have that one burner that we always recognize every season, but that guy may emerge, coming down the pike here. But I don't know exactly who that might be. But I'm still. We were looking at me and Ryan were looking for it at practice the other day. We were questioning Brawley, the safety, who's injured, and just which guy can stretch it. And so we got a couple names, but we're gonna have to wait and see if those guys develop, and if we're able to see some production from those guys once the season started. And with the broadcast here, I thought it was great. All alumni, UNM alumni, Sky McMillan, was great on the sideline. She took over for me, and then me and JJ were all UNM alumni. I thought that was great. It was important to me to get Sky involved because she's a former student athlete, women's soccer player, really good soccer player, and her dad is a 5-year NFL veteran defensive back for the Chicago Bears, and he played with Urlacher with the Bears a little bit. So it was kind of nice to have the team. We kind of really celebrated that, and it was just fun. And it's good for me because they're all young, and I'm the old man up there, and so they keep me a little young. So it was fun to do the broadcast with those two.
Yeah, I'm sure I told you I was in Silver City. I wasn't able to listen to it. I'm sure you did a great job, but I think you make a great point about the efficiency of Jack Lane. You're hitting 60%. They're not asking him to do anything outside. Dan Pierre last year made a lot of plays, extending the play with his feet. You lucked out on some of those passes. Let's be honest, he did. So maybe he was, of course, the superior athlete where they've got Jack Lane running more of a system. So I think you make a good point there. He's not turning the football over 60%, and maybe those plays that you mentioned in the vertical game will come later. And Dorian Thomas has been more of a wide receiver, tight end / tweener wide receiver in the first 2 games, and he had a good game. That fumble did hurt them a little bit on Saturday, but they were able to overcome that. So I think in just listening to you, but I want to ask you about, they did get some pressure. James Newby, the defensive end, has got that bend and flex at the defensive end position. What's been your take on him so far? He's up. I think he's going to be able to get some good pressure up as a defensive end.
Yeah, and they brought in a new guy, Darren Agu, finally made it through customs. He was stuck overseas, and so they've got another defensive end to add to the rotation. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see as we go along. This NIL stuff and this portal transfer stuff with all these new guys, 70-something new guys, that sort of thing. You're going to have to kind of wait and see a little bit. I'm just curious to see how we matched up with UCLA because they're struggling. The quarterback is special at UCLA, but it's going to be interesting to see. Newbie, got a little growing up to do, but he had some frustration during that game. But he's just going to have to bide his time until he's able to get the sacks that he was brought in here to get. Now we don't have Weber State on the schedule, brother. So you're gonna have to step your game up in the Mountain West Conference. There ain't no UC Davises and some Grand Canyons or whatever on the schedule. So he's gonna have to figure out a way to get some sacks in the Mountain West Conference and not it's not the Big Sky. I know they try to compare the two, but it ain't similar. So we'll see what happens. He's yet to get a true sack yet. From what I believe, I'm trying to think. I don't think he has a sack yet, but he's got time. I mean, he's healthy, so I mean, he's got to step his game up. If he really wants to play at that next level, he's got this extra year. You got to win. I mean, this is a guy you can win against. This tackle in this game is. This is a guy you want to go against. I mean, from what I watched on the film, they keep pulling him out of the game, and they gave him a bunch of money to come over from USC to play left tackle for UCLA. He's just got to step his game up. These next two. These sack guys, these specialist sack guys, they're getting the ball out quick. These RPO, but then there's guys that hold the ball. The new quarterback, Nico, he kind of holds it a little bit, but boy, if he gets outside of you, he's athletic. He can go now. So this will be a good test for him this game, and he's got a partner in crime that just showed up. He might be a little jet lag from these flights, but. This Darren Agu, I'm interested to see how he plays. I mean, he was all right this spring. He wasn't anything special, but they believe he can add another dimension to their rush game. So we'll see what happens this week.
Ned, one more question, and I'll turn it back over to Ryan. Jackson Eck had 14 tackles on Saturday, played pretty well against Michigan. What's been your impressions of him so far?
Yeah, like I said, coach's kid, smart. He's a really a try-hard guy, gets the ball, understands, what he's looking at when he sees it, can kind of read plays and react really quick. Coming from FCS, I always worry about the longevity. If the guys can sustain, this level of play for an entire season. So I want to give him a couple more games. He was productive against this Idaho State team. Playing with backup quarterbacks, really bright, really figured out, after a while that, hey, look, they're not doing the same stuff that, we thought they were going to do based on the film. These new guys are, they were pinning and pulling and running like a little quarterback counter play that, caused them a little trouble early on, but then they figured it out. But we'll see what happens as the season goes on, as we get into these next couple games. I always like to go 3 or 4 games before I kind of give any kind of judgment on players. You got to, you could see some things, but, you kind of have to have some confirmation bias based on some other personnel groupings. And, Michigan, for as many tackles, how many missed tackles were there? We don't ever see that tally. So it's one of those things you got to really wait and see. He's leading this team in tackles, but where are we defensively? How stout are we on defense? We'll have to wait and see. We'll know here in the next couple of weeks exactly where I think this defense stands, and offensively, we want to see if they can get some production against a little bit of better opponents.
Right.
Appreciate that, Ed. I think I'll ask you about Jack Lane. Ned, you're a quarterback. What have you? I mean, he didn't turn the ball over against Idaho State. What's your assessment of him in the first 2 games?
I just think he's been very productive. I've been, mildly impressed with him because he doesn't, he's been productive. Based on, I get a little weird with funky throwing styles. He's not like the big 6'7" kid out there that just that's how you want him to look. You want him to just stand back there and zip it. But he probably can't manage the game like Jack Lane can. So, and Jack, he throws that little sidearm throw, and that's kind of his specialty deal. And quarterbacks are unique. They come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. So you got to really kind of study him, and coach really trusts him, and so that's why he's in there. And I trust what the staff thinks of the players that they have out there, and we just have to wait and see if the production is good enough to get them some wins. And the quarterback, there's always a lot of pressure. They get way too much credit when you win, way too much blame when you lose. And so you just have to kind of gauge him as you go. And he is who he is. He's not a runner, but he is a great game manager. And I'm sure he got an offsides penalty. I'm sure he knows how to work the huddle and the cadence and that sort of stuff. But I like how he interacts with his teammates in practice, and this is general leadership capabilities. I'm really impressed with just watching him, just as he interacts with the rest of the groups, the offensive line, the running backs, the quarterback, the other quarterbacks, the receivers. I just like everything about his whole way of going about being the leader of the team at quarterback.
I think that should make a lot of Lobo fans happy. For gambling guys like I and the Vegas odds, it's 14.5. UCLA is favored by 14.5 points. My question to you, Ned, is what do you kind of see how this game can go maybe against UCLA on Friday night in the Rose Bowl? And no, it's Pasadena, but in your back in your neck of the woods.
My motto, I don't bet on sports, and I don't believe in betting on sports. So I just think that, it'll be an interesting game. Early on, I want to see, if we're able to move. They've got a good safety. Other than that, they've got just these three big, fat, massive defensive tackles. They're bigger. They're big guys, but they're just fat. But, we've just got to, be able to maintain some drives and keep the ball away from their offense and keep it away from that quarterback who can make big plays. They've got one receiver, I think, that's decent. But their tight end, they really – like their tight end. He's kind of slow and lumbering, but we'll see what happens with him. And then the running back was Coach X running back at Idaho and transferred to UCLA. So, and he thinks he's a good player, but we'll have to see. I mean, they've struggled. They're 0-2. I mean, the whole spread thing, I don't really buy much into that, but the people want to see production. They want to see us produce, like you said, the skilled guys outside. They want to see some vertical threat before they start making us the favorite, I guess. So those are things that people look for. The turnover game is always big. Special teams is always big. So just watch out there. That hidden yardage will catch up with you. But I'm curious to see. I mean, it's a Friday night game. It's going to be unfortunate because it's California. It's that LA traffic. It's in the evening at it's that rush hour right after 7 o'clock is kickoff. And so it'll be interesting to see if there's very many people there. So we should have, that advantage. So I'm expecting us to, kind of put on a little bit of a show. Guys will be excited to be in California. A lot of California guys excited to go back home that are on the team. There'll be a lot of California, even alumni guys that I play with that'll be there. Michael Cooper's calling for sideline passes. Everybody saw Michael Jordan on TV with Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Now all these basketball guys want sideline passes. Famous NBA guys want for their alma maters. It'll be great for Coop, because he's from Pasadena, and he's kind of a high school legend there in Pasadena, California. And so, I went to Pasadena Junior College, so there are a lot of guys that came here from Pasadena City College, which is where a lot of the staff recruited when I was a player at UNM. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to see if we can hang in there and just hold on and then just play at the end for the win. That's what UNLV was able to do. They were able to hold them out at the end and win the game, and Utah just rotated those defensive ends and just bull rushed that left tackle who's getting all that money but can't seem to stay on the field. It was so bad they replaced them. They put another kid in there, and they did it in 2 games. And so let's see if we can take advantage of that, and we should, because I'm sure those kids looked at that tape and saw how that left tackle was struggling in the game, and they had to move the right tackle over, take his spot, and he was supposed to be their premier offensive lineman. So it's going to be fun to watch. I'm hoping the guys just really kind of come together and rally this team. Seems like they're committed to be disciplined and not give up very many penalties. And so with that being said, they should have a good chance of winning this game. And a lot of guys I'm talking to, these alumni guys, think we can get 5 to 6 wins this year. So, and they believe it's possible. So we'll see. It'll start with this week, and then on to our little brothers from the South after this.
He is a former quarterback for the University of New Mexico. You can catch him with JJ Buck. By the way, Ned, I didn't tell you this. I meant to tell you it at the game and at practice and at the presser. Yeah, congrats on calling the game there on TV with, I guess 2 UNM alumni. So I didn't tell you that. I meant to do that. And then, you and I are always shooting the shit, so that's my bad. But always love talking to you during football season. We'll get into a routine of having you on same time every week, same day. It's kind of been a little crazy, but Ned James from the Lobo Radio Network. He's a football analyst, pregame, halftime, postgame with JJ Buck, and then obviously former quarterback for UNM. Ned, thanks for your time tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. You guys take care.
Take care, Ned. All right, that was Ned James, Lobo Radio Network. Ed, what'd you take away from that?
You know what? His analysis of Jack Lane, the 60% not turning it over. He always reminds us about the hidden yardage in the return game and the special teams wins games. You always remember. So there's a couple of things that I always forget that he says, and you mentioned it. Who do you know better that talks football? That guy played, coached at the pros, man. And he was telling us some stories about some. He coached Terrell Owens at the senior game when Terrell Owens first came out, and they didn't play him very much. Chattanooga, is that where he came out of? And so he's got a lot of stories.
Yeah, Tennessee Chattanooga.
But he analyzes, he looks, he watches positions. The guy's a great analyst, man. So when he talks about Jack Lane, we know he doesn't have a big arm, right? He's a sidearm guy. There, I don't know how much. He's going to put some balls in the air, and they're going to take some shots. But Ned's right. He's not an RPO guy. And Coach Eckett alluded to that when I asked him about Jack Lane last spring. What kind of runner is he? Hey, he didn't say, he goes, hey, solid. He didn't say he's a great runner, and he's not. He'll take some chances on the RPO, but he is what he is, and he plays within his talent skills. So I think and that's what I took away from that. You asked him about Jack Lane, and he's still not really saying he's waiting to really evaluate. He said he wants to wait about 4 games, but he's seen some stuff already. And the UCLA tackle, if he says that guy's struggling, keep an eye on him on Friday night and see if Newby can get some pressure. So anytime he's on, Ryan, I listen to him and I'm thinking, man, okay, I didn't think about that. And I wouldn't have, because I didn't play or coach the way he did. So I think it's always great to have him on. He always gives us something to think about.
No, I love him. He's the best. I think he's got a good sense of humor too. And but yeah, man, I mean, I know he kind of says he doesn't like people knowing that he coached the NFL, but when we have him on this show and when he's on with JJ, like, people should know he coached the NFL for a long time.
Yeah.
He was a part of he was a part of one deep playoff run with Tennessee. I mean, he was coaching in an AFC title game, in a game that was close, and he knows his stuff. Ed, what do you think might happen Friday night?
And I was encouraged when Ned said the Lobos have a chance. So I hopefully the running game gets running downhill. You want to win first down, to have 2nd and 3, second in a manageable distance to do other things. And that Idaho State front gave them problems. We mentioned Scott Trey Humphrey broke off that big run, but they didn't have the runs in the first half that they thought they would. So I'm hoping that they establish the run and, again, have 2nd and 4 and manageable situations, that they're physical up front. And so hopefully they can, do that. UCLA is going to come in a little bit hurt. They've lost 2 games, and so they're angry, and they're 14 points favorites at the Rose Bowl. So I'm hoping New Mexico has a chance. I'm definitely going to. I don't have the Big Ten network here, so I probably have to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and go watch it there. But I definitely plan on doing something. So I'm hoping they can keep it close, Ryan, and have a chance to win. I think hearing Ned saying he thinks they have a chance to win, I think it encourages me a little bit.
I think there's look, Bronco Mendenhall's team shocked us. That Michigan, that second quarter on, I mean, really, They're maybe 2 or 3 plays away from it being like 23-17 or 20. Who the hell knows? I don't talk this optimistic about Lobo football. I just haven't been impressed with what I've seen out of UCLA. I mean, I looked at the stat. I didn't watch that game. I was at the Michigan game. But what I saw when I got home Saturday night, I mean, maybe Nico Imaleva can turn it on, but I don't know. That's why they play the games. And here we are hosting a show like to try to give our opinion. But I mean, truly, that's why they play the games. To the comments, I'm running out of steam because all I've been doing is basically eating soup for the last 48 hours. 505 Lupin, build the X statue. Ryan getting the hockey player special on the jibs. Yeah, spitting chiclets. John Chadwick, I think the Lobos have a good chance of beating UCLA. I think a lot of people do. That's honestly insane to hear a 45K crowd, but Eddie's right on the money. Franchione and Long and one brings that crowd. Yeah, it was, you couldn't walk to the bathroom, like I said. Geez, Angels and Rockies is suck battle 2025 confirmed. Willie, it's not the Red Sox fault. You blew it in selecting LA baseball team. Eric Markham, I don't like the soft zone defense, not much attacking. I'd like to see more than 3 or 4 rushing the QB. Bump and run, we seem athletic enough. I don't know about that. The discipline is awesome. Nice to see on the penalties. Eric Markham offensively, let's attack the middle of the field more. QB needs to make that decision faster. Then run, pound the football. I think the Lobos cover the spread, but I don't know. I thought the Seahawks were going to get it done last Sunday. LOL. Yep. 49ers turned into a body bag. It was a body bag game for the 49ers. Ed, any final thoughts?
No, Ryan, you know what's up? Hey, have a good time in Pasadena, man. Watching the game over there in the Rose Bowl, and I'll be thinking about you when I'm watching the game on Friday night. And hey, man, go Lobos. I know we're supposed to be neutral on here, but I'm anything but. I'll tell you that. I'm a big time Lobo fan. So
no, people know that.
Yeah, I hope they win on Friday. I'll definitely be watching and seeing what's going on.
So I already mentioned my tooth when I started the show, not to transition from Go Lobos, but because I noticed it, I could see it in the 2.5 years of hosting the show. And now I can smile and I feel so much better with a big fat smile because it's my only redeeming quality. So anyway, I want to thank Will Weber. I want to thank Ned James. We may or may not do a show from Pasadena. At least we'll get into a couple of weeks where we'll have consistency again. I wanted to do a show on Monday, do a show today. I'm traveling tomorrow. I'll be in Denver again. But I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't have the umph to do it on Monday. So Ed, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Anyway. I'm thinking about doing a pregame show, maybe from my hotel, before I head over to the Rose Bowl. I'm not far from it. I still, worked in New York. I don't know what LA traffic's like. I don't know what Pasadena and Burbank's like. So I'll find out. It's been a hot minute. I haven't been to LA since 2019. I was in Anaheim, and I'm purposely flying into Burbank. So not doing LA. There's no reason for me to fly into LAX. Thanks to Will Weber. Thanks to Ned James. Appreciate everybody watching. And again, I'll throw this out there. You want to call the show next time? Hey, call or text. I'll take a phone call. I'll take a text. That is it there. 505-645-5621. Set that up probably for the next show. But Ed, thank you for joining us. Ed Nunez, voice of Western New Mexico and ProView Networks, and then obviously joins us on here. Just in case we don't do a show, we will be back next Monday. It's a bye week. We plan on the following week, and my 20th high school reunion is the 20th. St. Pius. And then we'll try to blow out the coverage the week of the 22nd with NMSU coming to town on the 27th. So thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate you chiming in again, given the, climate of the country today. And then tomorrow with the anniversary of 9/11. But anyway, don't do anything that I would do. On behalf of Eric Moulton, Jacob Neff, Nick Nunez, Craig Archuleta, thanks for watching. My name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. And as I say it, don't do anything that I would do.